would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number for the record, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Durrell Johnson, DOC number 4399966.
Yes, sir. It's Mr. Johnson. Let me acknowledge the folks who joined us today. On Zoom, we have the Parole Project, Mr. Myers. We have your Aunt Lydia Stewart. We have your Uncle Donald Stewart, Mary Johnson, your son Durrell Johnson Jr., and Leslie Favis, your child's mother. Those who've indicated they want to speak on your behalf, we'll let them do so at the appropriate time. We also have a representative from the DA's office in Jefferson Parish, Mr. Randy Meyer, who will be speaking as well. First, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to read some information into the record. You are, Mr. Johnson, classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving, a 40-year sentence. You were sentenced in May of 2001 in Jefferson Parish for armed robbery and attempted first-degree murder. You received a 40-year sentence on each of those. Those sentences are running concurrently, so it is a total of 40 years. Parole eligibility date was June 8th of this year, and the good time date is December 2nd, 2033. Does that sound right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Your case has been assigned to Mrs. Jackson. Would you answer her questions?
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. How are you doing today? Can you hear me?
How are you? Yes, ma'am. I'm grateful. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Mr. Johnson, you are 45 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been incarcerated on this charge?
23 years.
So you were 22 when you committed this offense?
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Tell us a little bit about the 22-year-old Mr. Johnson. How much education had you had? Go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Listen.
I said, tell me who you were at age 22.
The 22-year-old that I reflect back on didn't have any direction and didn't know his place in life. And I was a new father. My son.
Wait. I want specifics. How far had you gone in school?
Oh, I dropped out of 8th grade.
And how does one drop out in the 8th grade?
Because I gave up on school. Didn't really care about life no more.
And why was that? Why was that?
Because a lot of things was happening in my life, as far as with my environment that I was in. My brother had got killed, so I just took a different approach, a different direction.
How did your brother get killed?
He got shot.
Okay, so he was murdered.
Yes, ma'am.
And how old were you when that happened?
I think I was 17.
Were you still in school at the time your brother got shot? Apparently not if you dropped off at 8th grade.
No, ma'am.
So why did you drop out in the 8th grade?
I mean, because I felt like school was I was really troublesome by the whole environment and what happened with my brother during that time. Because eventually I just decided that, well, I'm gonna just quit school, probably find a job and see what happens.
Did you find a job?
Yeah, well, I had temporary jobs I started doing. Wound up getting odd jobs, cutting grass, helping my father, and different things like that. But I really didn't have a steady job.
What about substance abuse issues?
No, I never had any substance abuse issues.
You never used illegal drugs?
No, I mean, I smoked marijuana coming up, like as a youth, but I didn't have really a problem with drugs at all.
Marijuana is a drug.
Yes, ma'am, I know. But I mean, I wasn't doing it like to where I was addicted. Well, for the most part, like recreational purposes with friends or whatever.
How often? How often?
Depend like maybe twice a week, I would say, perhaps.
What about alcohol? Drink?
No, man, a few beers, but it wasn't no hard liquor, nothing like that.
Okay, well. Beer is alcohol, and there are a lot of alcoholics who drink nothing but beer. So tell me about your alcohol use.
Alcohol use, like I say, it was beer. Basically, I didn't have a problem with alcohol like that to where I needed it or to get drunk. It was just like maybe a coping mechanism for whatever purposes when, gatherings with friends or whatever.
Well, tell us what happened on October 30th of 2000.
October 30th, I was having financial issues with, paying bills, and
Back up. How old were you?
it's 22.
And where were you living?
I was living in an apartment on Independence in Metairie.
Okay, and how were you paying rent?
Well, I had a job at Denny's at the time. I was a short order cook.
Okay. All right, so tell us
And,
what happened on the 30th.
On October 30th, like I said, I was going into financial troubles and I was struggling to pay the bills, and I had a negative influence that, I was affiliated with, a cousin of mine, and he, somewhat had me adopt what he was doing. And I was already doing, criminal mentality things such as, running the streets. So I decided to go and rob a convenience store to try to help pay the bills, and didn't come up with much, but
What happened?
afterwards,
What happened during the robbery? What'd you do during the robbery?
I ran into the store, pointed a gun, and demanded the money, got the money, ran out and left.
And were you wearing a mask?
Yes, ma'am, I was wearing a mask.
How much money did you get?
Probably like $22, something like that.
And then what happened after you left the store?
After I left the store, went home and was feeling guilty, but then still kind of like, I need some more money to pay the bills, because this is not enough considering, I still have other bills to pay. So I was just contemplating on what to do next.
And what did you do next?
Well, another day, for Halloween, decided to rob another store.
And what'd you do? Tell us what happened.
This particular time, I was the driver of the car, and my accomplice went in. Demanded the money, we get the money, and we leave again, and went back home, and that was it.
And so you never went into the store the second time?
No, I never went in the store. I was the driver at the time of the second robbery.
How much money did you get?
Probably the same, somewhere around the same amount.
Well, when did you get into this pursuit with the officer? Tell us about that.
The pursuit with the officer came a month later, a few weeks. I was actually going to sell a gun because I was feeling guilty about the whole entire ordeal, committing crimes. That really wasn't my thing doing that, but I tried to go sell a gun that I used to participate in the robbery, and in the midst of doing that, I got stopped by the police, and ended up in a high-speed chase.
Why do you think they, were trying to stop?
Well, now that I think about it, it was probably because of affiliation with a robbery, suspect to a robbery.
Okay, and you were the driver? Who was driving the vehicle?
My stepmother was driving the vehicle.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
My stepmother was driving the vehicle at the time.
All right, and what did you do?
I was staying in the passenger seat.
And but how did you end up with an attempted murder charge?
Well, as we got to the end of the high-speed chase, we got blocked off. I jumped out the car and fired a shot and ran from the police, jumped the fence and tried to get away.
What kind of weapon did you have?
12 gauge pump.
And you struck the officer's vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long after that were you apprehended?
I was apprehended like 10 minutes later.
So let's talk about the Durrell Johnson today. What if anything is different about you today than 22 years ago?
There's a lot that has changed within my life because now I'm able to make decisions that are sound, that's reasonable and rational. In other words, what I mean is to understand the effects of my actions before I do them, and understand and know the consequences. What can I lose? What is that a gain? Does the good outweigh the risk that I have to, or should I say the bad outweigh the risk that I'm taking? You know, and now I look back at where I'm at now, that really wasn't even worth doing. It was really, senseless, in other words. So now I understand that I have a better way to do it because I'm equipped with the tools to do it, to help me. And that was my purpose for striving to do this because I never really wanted to live that type of life at that time to get me in here.
What's your job at the prison?
I work in the culinary department in the kitchen.
How long have you had that job?
Like 17 years.
Okay, and what do you do? You either cook, baker, dishwasher?
Yeah.
What do you do in the culinary area?
I'm a diet cook, but I also help all around. Wherever help is needed, I help everyone.
I noticed that you have gotten some vocational education. You received a welding certification from Capital Area Vocational Education Program.
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you get that?
I received that in 2012.
You never used that on the job at while incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am. I also started after I graduated, I was a tutor for a significant period of time until it had made a transition. And I decided to go to the culinary department back in the kitchen.
And you've gotten NCCER for curricula completion. I'm looking at some of the programs you took. Living in Balance. What did you get out of Living in Balance? Particularly since you don't think you had a substance abuse issue, what benefit did you get out of Living in Balance?
The benefit I received out of Living in Balance is I knew I had a problem. I knew that my actual life at the time was destructive. And living in balance has actually taught me that, you know, to get on track, these are some of the habits, the negative habits you have to get rid of. And these are the new things and the positive things you have to adopt in order to live in balance, to have a successful life, to overcome the obstacles and the things in which you was once addicted to.
Do you have children?
Yes, ma'am, I have a son.
And how old is your son?
He's 23.
Kind of the same age you were when you got yourself involved in this activity, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is your son?
He's in Texas right now.
Okay. Do you have any communication with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh,
We talk. Yes, ma'am. We talk like every day.
what does he do?
He's offshore driller. He work offshore contract work with a company, and like he do like 14 on 7 on something like that.
And I see that you took Inside Out Dad and Nurturing Parenting. What caused you to take those programs, and how do you think they benefited you?
It benefited me in ways now to be able to relate with my son on a father to son level, even though I've been distant from him. And we have a great relationship. And the reason I took those classes because I really wanted to be a good father at the time, but I just didn't know how. And now that I took those classes, it helps me to become a better father and to know the proper things in which to do for him and also my granddaughter.
Okay. You also took a number of faith-based programs, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I see that you got your GED in 2008.
Yes, ma'am.
We got a letter today from Adam Crosby with Ashland University.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about that. Tell us about Ashland.
That's my Ashland as well. I just received my bachelor's degree in Bachelor's of Art in Communication, and this was part of my journey and my success as far as my development, which has helped me become the person I am today. And I also took the leadership role in helping Mr. Crosby to inspire other students. And that was helpful and therapeutic for me because I had individuals to help me along the path to get to where I'm at now today. Those individuals have since gone, but I remember them and they helped be an example to me to motivate others. And I feel proud of that because even now today that I have graduated, I have other students that still, come to me for their inspiration and their assistance. And I'm honored to be a part of the university.
And it says you maintained a better than a 3-point average GPA.
Yes, ma'am.
Must be very proud of that.
Ma'am.
Let's talk a little bit about your disciplinary record. You've had a total of 35 write-ups, the last one coming in 2018 for an aggravated disobedience. Tell us about that incident. What happened?
I think that was over the school.
2018.
I was dealing with yes, ma'am. That was a spoon that a utensil where I was working at was in my area and it come up missing. And I don't know what happened to it. So I went to the supervisor and told him that since it was in my name, I might as well get the write-up for it because it was in my name. And that would actually happen cause a disobedience because I wasn't able to turn the tool in because I didn't know where it was at.
Okay. And what discipline did you receive for that?
Fox 7 in a little program at the time. for 30 days.
Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Johnson has been here at Hunt since 2008. His disciplinary record since being here at Hunt has been minimal. Looking at his programming, looked like he started working on his rehabilitation somewhere around 2010. As you see in his record, he does have a lot of certificates. He did get his GED. He has a low title risk and 591 days of CTRP credit. So he's done just about everything that we've asked him to do as relative to programming and mentoring the younger inmates coming into the facility at this time. He is a minimum level trustee here at Hunt. He does work in our kitchen. We haven't had any complaints with his work ethic or whatsoever. So feel like he's on the right track.
How long has he been a man-aid trustee?
February 20th of 2022.
Mr. Johnson, I will let you know that the officer involved in this incident specifically stated that he is unopposed to your early release and is generally supportive of your release. He believes that you really weren't trying to kill anybody, that you were young and you probably panicked, and he has no opposition to your early release. If you were to be successful today, Mr. Johnson, tell the board what your transition plan is going forward.
Well, first I plan to register with meet with my parole officer within 72 hours. And soon after, I plan to register with the local sheriff's office as a violent offender against a police officer.
Well, yeah, but you're gonna live beyond 72 hours, so then what? You need to know your long-term plan.
Yeah, well, I also plan on going to the parole project for a significant period of time to find employment. And after I find employment, help my family, my mother and father who have been supporting me, and help raise my son and my granddaughter.
Where do you plan to live long-term?
Long-term, well, when I get out, I plan on going to the parole project.
That's
So I plan
not,
on,
okay, but you don't stay there forever. So then what? I'm trying to
well,
see,
then I'll-
I'm trying to see, Mr. Johnson, if you thought through a plan. If you
yes, ma'am.
serious consideration to what you would do with the rest of your life if and when you are successful in your quest to get out. So I'm trying to see if you thought through it. You have concrete things that
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I plan on helping my mother and father. To live with my mother and father to help them. Because they're up in age, and then I'll get my own apartment.
What kind of work do you plan to do, Mr. Johnson?
I plan to weld. In fact, I want 2 jobs. I plan on welding and probably a cooking job.
Have you made any contacts with anyone on the outside that could give you assistance in getting a welding job?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I try to contact Harmony, but they never got back with me because I'm in prison, incarcerated at the time. But Harmony is a potential employer I would go see to try to get a welding job to start.
How old are your parents?
Well, my father is 75 and my mother is, I think, 72.
What other family support do you have besides your parents?
Well, I have a sister, I have a cousin, so I have some support that's willing to help me.
Did they know that you were appearing before the board today?
Yes, ma'am.
And did they know that they could have participated and offered us some information about the support they would offer you?
Yes, ma'am.
But they're not here. You know why they weren't? Why?
Well, I told them I told them what time it was supposed to be for, but I guess, I don't know. They probably got tired of waiting or forgot. I really know the situation, but I know that they was informed about it and they were supportive. But I just don't know what happened.
All right, Mrs. Renaud, so that's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. We'll hear from the folks in support. First of all, Mr. Myers with the Parole Project.
Good afternoon, Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We've been working with Mr. Johnson now for what seems like for a very long time. His hearing has been moved on a couple of occasions. She started off as a client, clinic client of the LSU Parole and Reentry Clinic. And it's unfortunate that they're in between semesters now. And that's why they're not appearing here. But we're here because we've been impressed with Mr. Johnson's work ethic, his rehabilitation ethic, earning an associate and bachelor's degree from Ashland University, his welding certification from Capital Area Technical College, his NCCER core, the fact that he is, and you heard it from the warden, is a stable influence, mentoring other people in the prison. His programming includes substance abuse, anger management, living in balance, victim awareness, among others. The inside out dad and nurturing parenting, victim impact training. He has also taken. He's impressed us. We are prepared to support him on a long-term basis until he gets on fully established. Based on his age and his skills, he's an excellent candidate for our employment enhancement program, which is a team here inside of a Parole Project that does nothing but connect clients with living wage employment. And so we will do everything we can to make sure he has a viable, using those skills, and has a viable living wage job. We are prepared, I sent just again to support him for as long as it takes for him to get in a position to meet his other goals, to go home, to help his parents, and essentially to support him throughout his transition. So I would ask this board today to consider the things that he's done, the work that he has done. He's been very sincere and very straightforward in this interview. And this is the mature Durrell Johnson, not the 22-year-old Durrell Johnson. And I said this before, we have been impressed by his work ethic in not only his record on paper, but by the interviews we have done personally with him. And so we'd ask this board today just to grant him his parole.
Great, thank you. We'd like to hear from Mr. Johnson's uncle, Mr. Donald Stewart. You with us? Yes, Donald Stewart. All right, well, we're trying to connect with him. Is Leslie Favis here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. What would you like us to know?
First of all, good afternoon. I'm actually Durrell Johnson Jr.'s mother. I just came here to be of support for Durrell, and asking to, I really don't know exactly what takes place or what I'm supposed to say, but I have had communication with him over the past years that he's been incarcerated. I do know that he is not the same person that I was with when I first met him. He has changed tremendously. I am also a convicted felon and was given a second chance. And it has turned my life around. Anyone can turn their life around. I believe he deserves a second chance. I know that he will do the right thing. He is a very loving father. He needs a chance to be able to physically connect with his son. Our son is only 23, and it would be better for his son to have his father in his life. We have a beautiful granddaughter. She would also, it would be beneficial for her to have her grandfather in her life. And I will be willing to help him in any way I can. I have 2 felonies actually, and I was able to maintain employment, turn my life around, take care of our children. I have a wonderful relationship with my kids, my granddaughter. I just want him to benefit from those things. It is not impossible for someone to change after prison. I pray that y'all will give him a second chance, because I'm not going to say he deserves it. None of us really deserve the second chance, but God blessed me with a second chance, and I believe he needs the same. And I thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for joining us today. Okay, we have Mr. Stewart. We have Mr. Stewart on the phone. Good afternoon, Mr. Stewart. Would you state your name, your relationship, and tell us what you would like us to know? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
What I need to do?
What is your relationship to Durrell?
Oh, that's my nephew.
Okay, what would you like us to know about him? What would you like us to know about Durrell?
I think Durrell started off kind of rough with his life. But I think the place he at now is a big change in his life. And from what I'm hearing and what I believe, that he should be working and come out of life. He have a grandson waiting on him. He always talking to me and he won't come home and help us, but we got older, and he missed his family. His son and his grandson. And I believe it was all, what I say, it helped him out when he come to us. He got no teeth. They expected to leave. And I really do believe when he come out, I know when he come out, he's gonna give us a man. He's young life. He's young. So he got another half of his life left. He can turn himself around tremendously. He's got to keep all his life and he got to do the right thing. I think he's eligible after the years. We all deserve the same thing. So on that note, I believe that he's gonna make it. That's my case.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Stewart, for joining us this afternoon.
Okay. Thanks for my life.
No, sir, that's it. We're going to move on. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Now we'll hear from Mr. Myers with the DA's office.
Good afternoon, Randy Meyer, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish. And again, Mr. Johnson shot at 4 police officers. He was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder, first-degree murder of the police officers, 3 were dismissed in his plea arrangement, and he pled guilty to one of those charges. And again, I think we're sending the wrong signal to our citizenry if we allow people to take shots at police officers and then give them the benefit of parole. He served 23 or 40 years, so just over half of it, just more than half of his sentence, and he was sentenced without benefit of parole, although he is eligible under the current statutes for parole. I had some real strong concerns with looking at what he's done when he's been incarcerated, but listening to his interview today, I think some of the concerns I have were answered. You know, he had programming. Most of the programming that he has taken has been some time. He had victim impact training in 2018. And he hadn't had much since he had the 100 hours. Most of the certificates that he's had of record, I think are all over pretty much 10 years ago. But after hearing about his education advancements and his welding, I did not see any of that in the record. And maybe that explains why he didn't continue with some of those programmings. And I'd like to commend him on that. I think that's an important thing for him to do. But when I look at his criminal record and what the offense was or is, you know, he had quite a bit of violence. He had resisting officers, disturbing the peace, 2 separate offenses where he was charged with resisting an officer and battery of an officer, armed robbery, 2nd-degree battery, another 2 counts of armed robbery, and now this attempted 1st-degree murder. Because of the nature of the offense and the time that he has spent incarcerated, at this time, we remain opposed to his request for parole.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson, is there a statement you'd like to make to the board?
Yes, ma'am, I would like to say that the past activities, the criminal activities in which I was involved in, I was deeply sorry for because I didn't have no understanding about life. And now I'm on a path to where I rediscover my humanity. Prison has helped me in that area because now I know myself. I know who I truly am, I know my identity, and I know how to value and sympathize and have empathy for others. And I just ask that I receive that second opportunity to prove myself and to show that I'm capable of being a productive citizen in society.
All right, sir, thank you. I think we are ready to vote. Mrs. Jackson will be voting first.
All right, Mr. Johnson, your crime spree, if you will, covered a relatively short period of time. You are officially classified as a first felony offender. You were in your very early 20s when this crime occurred. And if former officer Spindell can say that he's in favor of your release, that he doesn't hold any animosity towards you, and he doesn't even believe that it was your intention to kill anybody, that as a young, impulsive person, you reacted out of panic. You know, I'm not going to stand in his shoes and speak for him. I'm going to take him at his word. You have served your time well. You've worked hard. You've accomplished a lot. You have very positive remarks on the warden. You've done well in terms of your educational pursuits. I think you're equipped to be able to get a job and get a good job and be productive. And so my vote today would be to grant your request for an early release to the Louisiana Parole Project. And so that's my vote.
Thank you, Mr. Rocha.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Johnson. Mr.
Yes, sir.
Just a second, Mr. Johnson, just a second. Mr. John Q. Public cannot go around shooting at law enforcement officers. To release you early would send a message that we condone your offenses. You deliberately shot at 4 law enforcement officers. You were charged with 4 counts of attempted first-degree murder of a police officer. The nature of that offense is a series of any offense that's committed because it's a violent act against the establishment. You fired and tried to kill and just barely missed a police officer hitting his police unit. Based on opposition from the DA's office and the present law enforcement officers in Jefferson Parish, a history of violence, my vote is to deny your request.
Thank you, Mr. O'Shea. Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You've got a good transition plan. You had a good interview. You've served your time well. You've been in jail for quite some time. Got good comments from the warden. My vote would be to grant with the same conditions as outlined by Judge Jackson.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman.
In this case, like Mr. O'Shea said, you actually did point the weapon at the officer. You shot and you hit his mirrors. So it was lucky, like the officer said, that neither one of y'all killed anyone that night. And my vote is to deny.
All right, Mr. Johnson, you've got a split vote today. You got two favorable, 2 not favorable. You know, it takes a unanimous vote. So today, sorry, your parole's been denied. Good luck to you.
Thank you.